Some may say that we are wildly unqualified. Some may say we are only mildly entertaining. I say we are exactly where we need to be, back off the Memorial Day holiday and talking a lot of baseball here as we enter the dog days of summer. Welcome in to the Keeper of the Games podcast. This is episode number 69 of the only podcast dedicated to sports in and around and of interest to Wichita, Kansas. I am your host, Blake Cripps. Tommy Castor off this week and just had a kid, believe it or not. Find him at Tweets from Tommy. Send him some congratulations. What a week for him. Suffice to say, Tommy's going to be pretty scarce here over the next few weeks. But rejoining us this week is Weston Mills. So, Weston, how was your extra week off for you?
Oh, man. Always enjoy the Memorial Day weekend. Can't really say, there wasn't much to it. Just having that extra day is always nice. Took our little daughter out to the lake last weekend, which not Memorial Day weekend, but, still good to get out there. And I will say, as Tommy has entered parenthood now, and we got 2/3 of the KOG with parenthood. Blake, is there anything that you need to tell us?
We are so far away from that, you can't even see that in the distance. Have you heard of the what is it called? Like the 13-step program? We're not even on the treadmill in terms of getting that started. Okay, we haven't even found where the steps in. We're on a slide the other direction. Do you have any opening advice for Tommy? He's going to be watching, obviously. He's going to check it out or listen. What would be your number one piece of fatherly advice for a brand new father that Tommy Castor became over the weekend?
Oh, man. So this is a quote that was not related to parenthood, but something that I think hit home for me, and that's that I heard a long time ago, and it's be where you're at. I mean, seriously, though, that is really, a lot of times I make smart remarks and this and that, but that's a serious one for me. Be where you're at. It's easy to get your head, 100 different places, doing this, doing that. Take that time, be where you're at. Enjoy kind of all these moments that you have before things kind of get hectic as, he gets back to his real job. Morgan's working, all that. So certainly hope he enjoys this early on, and sleep when you can.
Yeah, that's what they say. So congratulations, Tommy and Morgan. Tommy will be rejoining us here in 3 to 4 weeks on the program. Certainly wish him and his new son the very best. Of course, we're wishing us the best as well, and for us to do that, we need your support. You can follow us on all the social media platforms. Cogsports.com is the website. Facebook.com/Keeper of the Games, at CogPod on Twitter. And, of course, the best place to find the podcast each and every week is on Podomatic, CogPod at .podomatic.com. Videos are available on Facebook.com/Keeper of the Games and on YouTube. And the audio gets posted pretty much everywhere: iHeartRadio, Spotify, Google, Apple, Stitcher, and a whole lot more. Coming up on the show today, a national football championship comes to Kansas. The Wichita Wind Surge surging forward and back in the same series. But we begin today with the state of the Kansas City Royals. Kansas City Royals baseball, as we enter today, 29-28. They are 6 games back in the Central. The Chicago White Sox have kind of caught fire here. They're 36-23. They've got the second best record in the American League, and they have won 7 of their last 10. Royals 6-4 in their last 10. 3 games back of the wild card, and I know June 7th, we're roughly about 2/3 of the way through the season now, but still pretty early to be looking at the wild card standings. But 3 games back, so certainly not hopeless for the Royals in terms of getting a wild card berth. Looking at the schedules, it is a late one tonight, and as we are kicking off here, they are pitching it off out on the West Coast in Anaheim, as the Royals are opening up a 3-game set with the Angels. Last off day for the Royals was Wednesday last week, so a long stretch of games are going to play from last Thursday all the way to next Wednesday, the 16th. So I think it's going to be the longest stretch of baseball that the Royals have had to play so far this year. They're going to wrap up this 8-game road trip. 6-game road trip. Angels and Athletics coming up here in June. Last time out for the Royals, a split with the Minnesota Twins. Kind of a disappointing result. Twins are tied for last in the American League Central. Royals jumped out on them 6-5 with the game one win on Thursday, then blew them out with the Jorge Soler power bobblehead night, 14-5, kind of a record-breaking open to that game. But then a one-run loss on Saturday, 5-4, one-run loss on Sunday, 2-1. So as we look at the entire picture here, Weston, it's been a couple of weeks for you. Give us your sense of where Kansas City is right now. A -6 run differential currently. They've had struggles both with offense and defense in different times of the season. And in all those categories, there have been guys that have seen a little bit of an uptick here the last few weeks. I guess I would say there are reasons to hope and reasons to mope if you're a Royals fan. Where on the fence do you sit as you kind of take this look about a third of the way through the season for the Kansas City Royals?
I feel like the Royals have really settled in from when we talked from the beginning of the season. You know, they had, of course, that torching hot start to the season where we all discussed, hey, look, this is a great start. They're playing some low opponents. Then the schedule picked up. They started to play some really good opponents. They lost a whole bunch of baseball games. And now over the last, 15 or so, I feel like we've kind of settled into more of a reasonable expectation of what this Royals team looks like moving forward. They're winning games they should win. They're losing a few that they shouldn't lose. And vice versa. We're getting, I think, a much more big picture look at this team. And one thing that I do feel like we've really settled in with them on is the offense. Early on it was hot. It obviously came crashing down, but it's kind of reached back to that status of, I think this team is that's going to be the building block for this team, as the pitching has been all over the map, and that's continued throughout the season.
Yeah. One
thing that has been stable in the wins is the offense, So, and particularly, I mean, if you look at the last, so it was the last 8 prior to their loss on Sunday. So I know I'm cherry picking stats a little bit here, but not counting the loss on Sunday, the 8 previous they scored 60 runs in those 8 games. That's 7.5 a game. Granted, you had a 10-run game and a 14-run game. But nonetheless, that's scorching hot bats. So you can see what this offense can do. And boy, one of the things I think, Royals fans should certainly be maybe almost even the most excited about this offense is Andrew Benintendi. And I don't necessarily mean to say he per se is the best bat on the offense. You could make that argument. But boy,
he might be right now.
Yeah, absolutely. It's good to see the trade with the Red Sox paying dividends, right? I mean, so and I saw this stat, and this is back from May 24th, and Benintendi's played well since then, so the numbers probably are not too far out. But if you throw out the first 8 games of the season, again, we're cherry picking stats, but it's important here. Benintendi is hitting 317, on base 375, slugging 431 with an 806 OPS. So you can see, really, I mean, obviously he struggled right at first when he got to Kansas City, but since then has really found himself at the plate, and you hope that this really is the Andrew Benintendi that the Red Sox saw in 2018 before he kind of came crashing back down from that early major league success. So I'm certainly excited to see what this, that this offense can carry on. It looks like they're going to. I mean, it's the game of baseball, right? You're never going to you can't just count on 5-6 runs every single night. But it looks like the Royals are capable of doing that on any given night, and maybe even, a majority of nights. So I think that's the most exciting thing about this team. And to come full circle to your question, I think we've kind of settled in now to see that this team, they have good offense, the pitching's all over the map, and they're going to be about 500. I think they're going to go on stretches both ways the rest of the season.
And I think which side of 500 that they end up on probably is going to depend on what streaks are longer. If they have longer winning streaks, they'll probably be a winning team. If they have some longer losing streaks, probably going to end up on that lower side. I don't feel like this is going to be a team that necessarily it feels like a really streaky team. I don't think this is going to be a team that's going to go 4-3 in a lot of 7-game stretches. I feel like they're going to be weeks where they go 2-5 and weeks where they go 5-2. So we'll see if that pans out. And there are definitely reasons to be positive. Salvador Perez has been kind of just a rock, kind of just a Chevy out there. You can depend on him. He's not going to be super flashy, but he's going to hit about 270, 280 for you. They hit quite a few home runs. He's driving in runs and just be kind of dependable out there, which is exactly what you want to see after signing him for that long contract coming off of an explosively hot short season coming off of an injury. Andrew Benintendi, I mean, at this point you have to say that in terms of that trade, I'm looking like an idiot because over his last 7 games, he's hitting 370 with 13 RBIs. Last 15 games, he's hitting 353, and he's getting on base nearly 40% of the time. So Andrew Benintendi certainly is not the problem. However, and I know that I'm going to be accused once again of being the guy coming in with the ice bath when you don't want it to douse on Weston's parade, but we also have to look. I'm not accusing you of cherry-picking the stats, but what I am accusing you of is cherry-picking the opponents. Sure. Let's have a little look here at who the Royals did it against. The Minnesota Twins, which, by the way, the Twins cannot pitch. They have no pitching in Minnesota. They have given up 305 runs, the second most runs allowed in the American League. They've scored 270. They have an offense that should not be 12 games below 500. The problem is that they can't seem to get anybody out, and they're terrible at home. They're 12-17 at home. So they have been horrible at target field, and they can't pitch. And against teams with a winning record, they're 13-22. So they are playing really bad against good teams, and they can't pitch. That's really a problem. So the Royals, yeah, I mean, sure, they hammered them, but the Twins can't pitch. And the Pittsburgh Pirates are not exactly one of the. They're in last place in their division, 23-35 with a -75 run differential, the worst run differential in the entire major leagues. So that's who the 10-game stretch is against. And the Royals, by the way, lost the last 2 to Minnesota. So there are good things to look at. There are, and I don't want to say that it's all negative, because Andrew Benintendi is playing better. And a guy that we were kind of driving the bus over, maybe we were digging the grave for him. You look at the numbers, they're still not pretty. But Brad Keller, the last few games, has started to kind of turn things around. Over his last 7 games, 7 starts, he's 4-2 with a 3.8 ERA. Now, I'm not suggesting that we should all just run naked around Kauffman Stadium in celebration, but if you would have told me beginning of the year, he's going to win 66% of his games, and his ERA is going to be about 3.75. I would say, you know what? I don't think the Royals are going to make the playoffs with that, but you probably have to take that, right? You're not likely to get a lot better than that from Keller. So he's been really good lately. He's been, maybe I shouldn't say really good. Scott Barlow, on the other hand, has been unbelievable. I think in his last 8 appearances, he has not given up a single run. So he has been absolutely on fire. However, there are negatives to talk about. May I suggest to you, exhibit number 1, what is going on with Hunter Dozier? This guy cannot hit the baseball right now. I know he had that big home run, but you look at his numbers right now. Hunter Dozier is flat out struggling. Weston, he's hitting 146. I mean, the last time we talked about this, when he and Jorge Soler were combined, I don't know if you were on the show, but they were like a combined 2 for 50. At least he's 4 for 26 over his last 7 now with 2 home runs. Hunter Dozier is in a horrid slide. He's 5 for 53 over his last 15. And I still stand by and say that the Royals are not going to have a winning record if you don't have Jorge Soler and Hunter Dozier hitting well, and Soler is still under the Mendoza line. He's still hitting under 150 in the last 7 games. When do you make a change in the lineup? Jorge Soler, obviously, he's the home run, single season king in Royals history. We know what he can do with the bat, but at some point, it's not about what you can do, it's about what you're doing. And these 2 guys, the Royals have got to have them produce, and they're not right now. And the Royals aren't, I believe, with the inconsistency in the pitching that you mentioned, Royals can't be as good as they can be. You can only Andrew Benintendi and Salvador Perez cannot carry.
And that's I'm going to mention this in passing just because I feel like we almost don't give him enough credit somehow. But Sal just continuing to play phenomenal base. I mean, we don't talk about him enough, but it's just a given night in and night out. I don't know. I guess it's because he's
I mean, he's such a good
Me
guy.
too.
He's probably my favorite player, and we treat him like he's
I know.
like
I
dog
think it's
food
just
on this
because
show.
he's been
Terrible.
here so
Shame
long,
on
and
us.
and he hasn't produced at this level, but he's produced consistently throughout his career. So I don't know if we're just taking him for granted.
Yeah.
But going back to Hunter Dozier and Jorge Soler, I think part of the problem too is right now what is the alternative for the Royals, and not to suggest that heck you don't get. Bobby Witt Jr. He hit 3 home runs the other night, May 30th for the.
How's he doing? Do you have his stats?
I don't.
Do you have his average looked up?
Yeah,
well,
absolutely.
You make your point, I'll look up.
But it's a good segue because that's kind of my thing right now. Currently on the big league roster, there's not alternatives to these guys. And I think always the response is, well, it can't be worse than what they got going on. Well, and that might be true, right? It's like, why not give Hans or Alberto, a few more looks, or Edward Olivares, who's, played well. But the problem is, like, well, even if they are hitting a little bit better, what's the upside with those guys? Is it better to try to get corrected the guys, in Jorge Soler and Hunter Dozier that have huge upside? Or I shouldn't say huge upside, but have significant upside, as opposed to just plugging in guys that's like, yeah, they might be a little better than them right now. But
Weston, I think you're going to like this.
Yep.
27 games for Bobby Witt Jr. He's got a .315 on base percentage, which is not great. Hitting .236, 26 hits. However, 10 extra base hits, 9 of which are home runs. So this guy's hitting for power. He does have 35 strikeouts in 27 games, so that's a little bit concerning. But, so this is the question I want to ask you. The last time that the Royals did this, they brought up Daniel Lynch, big-time prospect, and that thing crashed and burned about as hard as it possibly could. Daniel Lynch was not ready. He got absolutely shelled. Do you think that maybe would make Kansas City, Dayton Moore, Coach Matheny, maybe a little bit more reticent to do that with a young superstar player that's got a lot of name recognition? There are a lot of people that want to see him up in the majors, and he's doing good things. He is progressing. He's hitting for a lot of power. And his home runs have been mammoth shots, Sports Center quality, towering shots. But he definitely doesn't seem, to me at least, to be polished quite yet. But as you mentioned, Royals don't exactly have polished players.
And I think they've shown,
right now,
and particularly even going back where we started this conversation, the Andrew Benintendi trade from the beginning shows that they are ready to, at least in the Royals' mind, ready to compete and contend for a division right now. Now we can argue about whether that's right or wrong, but my opinion is that's what the Royals think.
I don't know about that.
Otherwise, they wouldn't have given up the prospects that they did. And that trade actually went through, and the name of the guy that, the players to be named later just went through on the Andrew Benintendi trade, and one of them was a pitcher that was I want to say second-round pick or third-round pick in 2018. So that's a pretty early, pretty high draft pick to be giving up. That goes to show, I think, what the at least the mentality that they're in. So I think if they believe Bobby Witt is going to provide something that Jorge Soler or I'm more focused on Hunter Dozier, because that's kind of where I'm thinking that this might be helpful, getting Bobby Witt some reps at third base, which is his position of the future. I think it makes a lot of sense. And really, you go back to the strikeouts. Well, that's okay though, because with Bobby Witt right now, what you would be trying to replace is that power that you're missing from either Jorge Soler or Hunter Dozier. So if he's coming up and swinging and missing, well, the other two are as well. Except hopefully, you hope Bobby Witt's going to connect and hit some home runs. So, in Blake, I think you might roll your eyes and groan, and I don't know what else you got coming for this, but have you seen the numbers lately on old Bubba Starling down in Omaha? But
wow, there's a guy that we haven't talked about
this
in a while.
Though? So this was
doing?
As of June 3rd, and then I have an update for you as of June 6th. So as of June 3rd, Bubba Starling had played in 6 games. During those 6 games, he has 5 total hits. 4 of them were home runs. Two of them came on that game in June 3rd. His other hit was a double. Then on June 6th, he hit 2 more home runs, giving 8 hits on the season, 6 being for home runs. He had 3 multi-home run games on the season so far. So, I mean,
that's
at this point, I expect nothing out of Bubba Starling, but my God, what a story that would be if he could come up and provide some power at the big league level. But again, I just have to, just kind of laugh and roll your eyes. And I mean, God, it'd be a miracle, but that's nothing you're expecting.
Yeah, man. Boy, Bubba Starling was a guy that's not even on my radar in terms of the Royals. Like, he just got lost in the jungle down there. But yeah, maybe they can, reclaim him. Also, if I may, I think I do need to have a conversation about the managing staff, front office staff. Especially, I got to go back to this Daniel Lynch thing. Jackson Kowar is getting called up. He's actually supposed to start tonight against the Angels. And who is getting optioned down to AAA Omaha? Jacob Junis. Okay, so what we did with Jacob Junis, we took a guy who was doing just fine as a starter, solid starter, probably our second or third best starter. Certainly while Danny Duffy was going into Cy Young land, that was insane what he was doing early on in the season. But Jacob Junis was not just serviceable; he was pitching very well. And so the Royals, because they need Daniel Lynch, and I get it, there was a vacancy in the rotation they had to fill. They call up Daniel Lynch, who was not ready. They move Junis back to the pen. They totally mess up Junis's cadence and rhythm. Junis now is not even good enough to be on the big league squad, so he's going to Omaha. This has been a disaster for the Royals because Junis was pitching well. We've mentioned how up and down the pitching has been. I hated the move when it was made. Obviously, we have the full sample size now. The move was stupid. Why would you take a guy who is pitching as a starter? If you want to mess with a reliever, I understand that. Relievers are different. But when you have a guy, and I know he started the year in the bullpen, but he is pitching well as a starter, I cannot for the life of me understand why they would make that move to move him to the pen for this kid from wherever they got Daniel Lynch from. And Lynch, doesn't even, his second start doesn't even make it out of the first inning and doesn't even make it to 4 appearances before he's back in the minors. This has been a tragic statement, a tragic mishandling of their resources by the Kansas City Royals.
Yeah, I definitely, I mean,
put it
I can't say anything other than agreeing that the Daniel Lynch move did not work out. But, and this is pure speculation on my part, Blake. I've not read anything or seen anything to suggest this, but I'm curious if part of Jacob Junis being now optioned to AAA as opposed to, just sticking around or whatever, shuffling around, I'm wondering if they're sending him there to stretch him out to go, you're right, the bullpen didn't work out. He was doing well as a starter, but now we want to stretch him back out, get him back into that starting rhythm in the minors where it's not going to cost us. And then they've got that opportunity to bring him back. Pure speculation on my part, but that's, to me, that makes the most sense because I know he wasn't pitching well out of the bullpen, but there's a couple of guys that aren't pitching well out of the bullpen, and I don't think that Junis needed to be the guy. Also peculiar that they DFA Jake Newberry in that move as well, and I know, again, someone who's not pitching well, but a very young arm. I think, again, that kind of goes to show the mode that they believe they're in, which is ready to win now by DFAing a young arm like that. And I know it seems like a small, unconsequential thing, but I think it goes with it. Also, side note though, to kind of differentiate a little bit from Daniel Lynch compared to Jackson Kowar getting called up tonight, Jackson Kowar coming in to this start tonight with a .081, I believe, ERA. I mean, almost with the difference in my mind with Jackson Kowar, it was he pretty much said, I'm ready. There's nothing else I can do here. I'm just annihilating this minor league talent, where Daniel Lynch had a little success, but it's certainly, like you said, back when the move was made, he wasn't just blowing people out of the waters. He looks good, but he wasn't blowing people out of the waters, where, at least so far, the numbers have looked fantastic. And who knows how it's going to play out, though. I mean, obviously that's kind of the thing, right? You just got to see. But I think there's a little bit of a difference between what Jackson Kowar did to be ready compared to Daniel Lynch, which, as we can all agree now, that move just did not work out.
Sure. That's fair. Was not ready. Also,
yeah, I was going to ask you that.
Does somebody know where Danny Duffy is? The guy was on the 10-day DL. So the only article that I can find is like a week ago in the Kansas City Star. And basically the headline was that he's progressing, but return to the rotation is not imminent. Royals manager said, I think last week on Tuesday afternoon, he's responding well. He's throwing up to 90 feet. And the next step is going to be throwing off of a mound in a controlled setting. Again, Kansas City Star for the credit there. But, I mean, he was put on the 10-day DL, I think it was May 18th. Yeah, May 18th, Associated Press, for pain in his left forearm. I mean, the longer this stretches out, we're up to 20 days now. I mean, he had been pitching fairly well. He certainly, and I don't think anybody really believed that he was going to continue on the pace that he was in the first month of the season when he was virtually unhittable. And in my estimation, I would have never said that Danny Duffy was the best pitcher in baseball. Yeah. For the month, he may have been the best starter in baseball. I mean, his ERA was under 1, I believe. And even as his last start, all the way back May 12th against Detroit, went 6 innings, gave up only 4 earned runs. But he has not had the Danny Duffy blow-up this year. So if they're going to end up on the right side of 500 like you think they are, well, I really think that they definitely need a healthy Danny Duffy to get back up to Kansas City. And right now, as of today, I mean, maybe there's something that I have missed. Maybe there's something that our crack research team has let through that they did not pass along to us before the show. I can't find any update on Danny Duffy other than a week ago and his.
Yeah, and usually you see a lot of you get the beat writers that, Danny Duffy was out throwing long toss today, and I feel like you haven't even seen really any of that. So I certainly hope that there's not a bigger issue, and maybe they are just saying, hey, older guy, let's just not take any chances, go real slow with it, and let's hope it's a matter of that and not, oh boy, there's something bigger at issue here, with his arm. But, and it's pivoting to another name on the 10-day IL, and this is kind of one of those things, too, where the eternal optimism in me always says, well, look what this team's doing. They're above 500. They're showing some signs of really good baseball, and they're calling up Jackson Kowar. They're going to get Denny Duffy back. And then here's the other guy, Adalberto Mondesi. There's been a lot of frustration from Royals fans, I think, about his continued stint on the IL and continuing to be hurt, and he's pretty much his whole beginning to his career has been kind of riddled with injuries. I think fans often are, unfairly, I think, pin the players as, injury prone, as if it's their own fault. I mean, I'm sure some guys might be more cautious than others with injuries. I'm sure there is, but I mean, ultimately this guy's getting injured, and I don't think he's going out there to try to do that. I'm sure he wants to play baseball, but boy, he showed us some really good baseball in that little bleep that he had to start the season. I mean, he hit 360 in his return, and again, I know very small sample size, but you can see why people are so excited to get him on the baseball field, and certainly this offense would look so much better with Mondi plugged back into that lineup. So, there is definite hope with some of these guys, or with some of the guys that are making debuts, that are young, or that are injured and are coming back. So I always think that there's a lot to look forward to, and the more the Royals can tread water and keep as much up to pace as they can in the AL Central, I think that gives people more and more hope as we get down, towards the, post the All-Star break and when things kind of get serious towards that stretch run.
Early correction on myself. It is a 7-game road trip for Kansas City out to California. 3-game set with the Angels, and the first pitch should be getting just about underway here. So obviously, I'm not going to have that score for you here, as that's actually just getting started in the top of the first as we are recording this here. They'll wrap up with the Angels on Wednesday, and then they'll head to Oakland to play 4 more games. 8:40 first pitch Thursday, Friday, and then 3:07 first pitch on Saturday and Sunday at Oakland. 8:38 is the first pitch time for all of the games against the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim, of California, of whatever they're called now. So that's what's coming up for the Kansas City Royals. Getting a little bit closer to home here, but sticking with baseball. boy, if you have been a diehard Wind Surge fan, you have been treated to some of the wildest baseball that maybe you will have ever seen. Last series against Arkansas, which was played in Wichita, the Wind Surge won multiple games with walk-offs, 2-1 on Tuesday. They come back, lose Wednesday. Thursday, they win 7-6. Then they win 8-5 Friday, 6-4 Saturday. Then they get blown out 9-0 on Sunday. Series before that against Springfield, they lose to the Cardinals. In fact, they split the series with the Cardinals. Very disappointing result. Springfield, the worst team in the AA Central by far. But after losing 7-2, then they come out and blast Springfield 14-1 on the 26th. They lose back-to-back games and then put together back-to-back wins to salvage that series. 10-9 on the 29th, 6-5 on the 30th, and currently lead the AA Central 18-12. They are the number one team in the North Division, despite having the lowest run differential, second lowest run differential of any team with a 500 or better record in the entire AA Central. +6. The Tulsa Drillers are +34 in the AA Central, and somehow Wichita is ahead of them. So, Weston, I know that this is a way overused term, and it's used applied in every single sport, but I've heard a lot of people call these guys the cardiac kids, and it is kind of a hard team to figure out, but boy, it sure seems like they are playing at a very exciting brand of baseball. And they've got a very big series coming up on the road at Tulsa. As I mentioned, best run differential in the entire AA Central here over these next 6 games, but Wichita at 18-12.
Yeah, they're first place in the AA Central.
Couldn't ask for a much better start.
They have been playing some exciting. You're getting walk-offs out at Riverfront Stadium. They're
crazy.
Yeah, I know.
Like every single
the thing
game,
I think is exciting too. You're getting a combination of
Wichita.
Good baseball, a combination of exciting games, and then getting to see great talent. I mean, obviously this team is pretty much led, I'd say, in my opinion, by Jose Miranda, who's hitting .319, slugging .546, and then so that half of the diamond, I guess, really kind of leads the team, because then shortstop Jermaine, and I'm hoping I'm saying this right, Palacios, right? He's hitting .316, slugging .416. So you're getting to see some great talent there on the field. And then I have to ask, did you notice or did you see that Gilberto Celestino, who started the season with the Wind Surge up until, I want to say about a week ago, got called up to the big league squad with the Twins and made a beautiful little appearance against the Royals when Andrew Benintini hit a ball right in between left and center, and Celestino was starting in center field. Celestino cut off the left fielder, then missed the ball, scoring, and I want to say, it was Gerard Dyson. Gerard Dyson was on second, was, of course, tagging up. Then Celestino misses the ball. Dyson obviously gets to third. Then instead of, I have no idea what Celestino was thinking, throws the ball back to second, so behind the runner, overthrows the second baseman with that, and Gerard Dyson scores off of that Andrew Benintini bloop. So fun to see, but it is fun though to see, right, that the Wind Surge, the Wichita product, going up playing for the Twins, and then against the Wichita typically fan favorite team in the Royals. So kind of fun to see the product. But you're right. I mean, and I think upcoming for the Wind Surge, we're going to get a good idea of what this team is and who they are. Like, with the minor leagues, you always are going to get fluctuations, right? Because guys are moving in from the roster up and down. You play in all sorts of different size ballparks. A lot of different variables go into minor league baseball. But like you mentioned, they got 6 games coming up against 17-12 Tulsa, followed by 6 games against the treacherous Springfield. What are they? The Redbirds? Is that right for Springfield? Okay, the Springfield Cardinals. That's still a Redbird.
Cardinals.
So, but I think we're going to get it'll be a good spot, over this next week to see where they are. If you certainly hope that they can take that series with Tulsa, that goes a long ways, especially knowing that they go into a 6-game streak. And yes, I know they split with Springfield, but 6 games against 8-21 Springfield will really put them on a good path. if they can win this 6-game series at Tulsa.
Yeah, the Wichita Wind Surge currently second in the league in OPS as a team, hitting .259 as a team. Their OPS is .735. Not much of a power team so far for Wichita, just kind of average. But they hit. This is a team that hits a lot of doubles. They're second in the AA Central in doubles. So this is a team that is putting the ball in play and doing a fairly good job of not striking out so much. They're in the bottom half of the league in strikeouts, and I believe in the top half of the league, in the top half of the league in walks taken. So being a little bit selective at the plate. And the number one thing that I think you want to see out of this Wind Surge team, you want to see the pitching continue to develop. Frisco has been unbelievable in terms of their pitching this year. They're like a half run. Well, them and Tulsa. Tulsa's been really good as well. Frisco is first in the AA Central at 3.14 ERA, and then about 0.2 of a run behind is Tulsa. And they've kind of separated themselves. It's about a half run back to get to Arkansas and Wichita from there. But Wichita has had very solid pitching as a team throughout the first 20, 30 games of the season. So if the Royals can continue to pitch well, I think that they're going to have a chance to do really, really well. And you've got to be able to take down the Springfield Cardinals. The Cardinals are just absolutely struggling. Worst pitching staff. I mean, you look at the AA Central in terms of the standings, everybody is within 4 games of 500. All the losing teams are within 4 games of 500, except for Springfield. Springfield is 8-21. The next worst team is 13-17, which at this point in the year, being 4 games below 500 through 30 games, not that big of a deal. Springfield is just awful right now. They can't do anything right, and they are. Amarillo is -25 in the run differential, the second worst team in the AA Central. Springfield is -83. So I don't know what's going on with the Cardinals AA franchise, but they suck right now, which thumbs up to me because we hate the Cardinals on this program, obviously, as Royals fans. So, yeah, I think a big opportunity to match up here against your predominant rival. Do we know who the primary rival of Wichita is going to be right now? Is it going to be Tulsa? I know in hockey between the Wichita Thunder and the Tulsa Oilers, that's kind of the big rivalry is Wichita and Tulsa. Is it Wichita and Tulsa in the Wind Surge? I'm not sure if we have the answer to that yet. I know Royals fans here probably don't want to see the Cardinals come in and win a whole lot here in Riverfront Stadium, but I don't know how the rivalries really worked out at the minor league level. I think that would be a nice rivalry if they can conjure it up. But yeah, so far, Wichita, the only thing that you worry about is the sustainability of what they're doing. Because they're +6 in run differential, and I keep bringing that up. Run differential, sabermetrically, is the best predictor of whether or not a team is going to win a game. You run all the stats through the calculators that you want. I'm going to boil this down really, really quickly for you. You have a better chance of predicting whether a team is going to win or lose based on the run differential. Not the runs allowed, not the ERA, not their batting average, not any other stat. Run differential is your best predictor. It's been proven. Go talk to Bill James if you got a problem with it. And Wichita right now, +6, their expected win-loss is 16-14, 2 games back, which through 30 games, kind of significant. So I'm interested to see if they can continue this moving forward. But without a doubt, Weston, it has been
and I keep hearing
thrilling baseball
fantastic
to start their
things
tenure
about
here.
Going out to the ballpark and experiencing there. Obviously, I wish we had Tommy on today as the only season ticket holder on the podcast crew. I'm sure he would have some wonderful things to say as well. But keep hearing what a good experience is. And
yes.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I was happy and good to see. I also an update on my complaint about the beer prices. I did see that they do have they've been having Thirsty Thursdays. So maybe I just need to be going on a Thursday if I'm gonna be an old grouchy man about the beer.
Yes, they do.
But overall it seems to be good, and I think I guess if I kind of leave with one last thing is
good specials.
What the Wind Surge need moving forward in really its adaptability, right? And I think that's probably an answer for all minor league baseball teams. But you're gonna, like I mentioned earlier, you're gonna have pitchers that get called up, get called down, your position players that get called up, called down. You're going to have big leaguers that need to come do a rehab assignment and are going to plug in, and they're going to be, maybe you have a pitcher that needs to just work on something that's maybe not necessarily to the benefit of the Wind Surge win-loss. So being able to adapt to those surroundings, I think, are always important in minor leagues, and we'll see what they can do. Like you said, as we got a tough stretch with Tulsa, and then hopefully can kind of, you never can relax, but, then get into a little bit of a lighter side of your schedule.
Very interested to see once we have access to, some statistics in terms of attendance numbers. Would love to see what the attendance has been like out there, how it compares to other markets of similar size, of the teams in the league in terms of total numbers, percent capacity, because the coronavirus numbers continue to trend in the correct direction, at least down here in Sedgwick County, really all across Kansas and the vast majority of the United States. The thing is getting beaten back big time. So hopefully that'll get more and more fans more comfortable going out to the ballpark. But it'll be a little while before you can go back out to the Arkansas River to see those Wind Surge players. They're at Tulsa for a 6-game set. Of course, with the schedule this year, because of the pandemic, every single Monday is an off day in minor league baseball, and then a 6-game series. That is not going to be the case next year, obviously assuming that everything keeps going back to normal, and there's no indication at this point that it won't be. But 6-game sets every week, and every Monday is a travel day. 6-game set at Tulsa, 7:05 first pitch, Tuesday through Saturday. Getaway day on Sunday, 1:05. Next time you can catch them at home will be 7:05 on Tuesday, the 15th 6-game series with the Springfield Cardinals. 7:05 first pitch, Tuesday through Friday. 6:05 on the 19th on Saturday, and then 1:05 first pitch on Sunday, the 20th. We wrap up the show today with college football. Yeah, believe it or not, they were playing some meaningful football this early spring as the NJCAA made the decision to delay the football season for 2020 and into the spring of 2021 because of the coronavirus pandemic. Seems to have paid off for the most part, and boy did it pay off for the Blue Dragons. I know this is a little bit outside our purview of Wichita area sports, but Hutchinson up there in Reno County, a Jayhawk Conference team. The Blue Dragons win the NJCAA National Championship. A big win over Snow. They had to come back in order to do it. 29-27. Hutchinson was ranked as the number 1 team in the country coming into the matchup. Snow College number 2. It was played in Little Rock, Arkansas at War Memorial Stadium. Ty Edwards, the Blue Dragon running back, was the game's MVP. 139 yards, 2 touchdowns. It had been a little while, I think, Weston, since the Jayhawk had claimed the national championship. Obviously, for a long stretch of time there, you had Butler County kind of running things under Coach Troy Morrow for a number of seasons. They've kind of faded a little bit. I'm not saying they faded into obscurity, but there have been other teams come in. Obviously, those of you who have watched Last Chance U on Netflix are very well aware of what happened in Independence over those couple of seasons a few years back. Garden City made a little bit of a run coming from out of nothing to kind of become a contender. Hutchinson's always kind of been around, been a factor, never been the team. But Weston, this year, they were the team, had to come back from 14-0 down and trailed 21-10 with under 5 minutes to play in the third quarter. But Hutchinson goes on a run to end the game. They score 19 of the game's last 25 points to win it.
First 2016 Garden
bring a
City
national championship in football back home to Kansas.
Someone from the Jayhawk Conference won. So Hutch under first-year coach Dave Dallas getting it done. Can't imagine getting that called first year getting the job done, especially in an odd year like it was. So good for him. But Blake, on this show, you guys have made fun of me or poked fun at me. I don't know what other terms I can use, but how I always bring things back to me. Well, I've got a little fun fact for you about the Hutchinson football program. And listen, here's the thing. No, Uncle Ron did not leave the Bishop Carroll bowling squad to go coach at Hutch, but my old defensive coordinator, Andrew Krause, he is the special teams coordinator for Hutchinson Community College. So good to see him get it done. But But yeah, big win for Hutch. I was kind of looking through the roster. I wasn't familiar with a lot of these guys. Not from the area, anyways. I did note that there was Justin Powell from. He's a freshman defensive back. I from what I saw, I didn't get to play a whole lot from Pretty Prairie, but also went to Bishop Carroll High School. So that's kind of an odd relation for me. But that's the only local guy. And I don't know your thoughts on this, Blake. I completely understand, and I think from a competitive standpoint, it makes sense, the relaxation that they've had on a certain number of Kansas kids within a program. But I do, at times like this, I'm excited for Hutch. It's great that they won this national championship. But, it is kind of sad to go and look at the roster and not see anybody from the metro area. I think maybe another kid from Salina on the team. I remember, 2009, 2010, that was been my first 2 years of college, and obviously I went the NAIA route, not JUCO, but I know some of the boys that played on those teams in Hutch, and they were littered with guys from the area, and that, I understand from a competitive standpoint, it makes a lot of sense, but I do hate not seeing as many of the local guys there on the roster.
I'm not gonna lie, Weston. That's exactly the point that I was gonna bring up. Is that we had a system that Kansas kids had an opportunity to go and develop in junior college and play their way into a Division I or Division II scholarship, and we saw it happen many times. How many Kansas State players over the years were developed through junior college football? Butler County won national championships doing that in the Jayhawk Conference. And then, for some reason, half of the teams in the Jayhawk Conference who played football, basically everybody who was sick and tired of losing to Butler, because Butler had some sort of a built-in advantage being closer to Wichita, even though Coffeyville had a stretch where they pretty much ran the league, and Butler was terrible for a while, but they always forget about that part, where every team has kind of had a spurt being the lead dog in the Jayhawk Conference, but because they haven't done it lately, they can't come back and do that. I think it is pretty sad. And I know that if you talk to a lot of high school coaches around here, I know what had happened when I had a sports talk show down here. It was a big deal. And I know if you go and knock on the door of Steve Martin at Wichita Northwest, you talk to Alan Shuckman, who was the coach at Bishop Carroll, talk to Dusty Trail, his successor. You go down and talk to Derby, talk to Coach Clark at Derby, or if you talk to Coach Harrison while he was the coach at Heights, now he's at Bethel. Those guys, I think, I don't know, but I think that all those guys would tell you, and I think the Wichita Eagle, I think Taylor Eldridge actually did a story on this about maybe a couple of years ago, about the precipitous drop in the number of Kansas kids on rosters. And I think that it's a shame because, like you said, I do want the Kansas schools to be competitive. And, we've seen, we have a firsthand look right now at what it takes to win a national championship thanks to Last Chance U. Because that Indy team that Coach Jason Brown led, whether or not you like Coach Jason Brown, and I'm not saying you should, because the guy, well, suffice to say, he's got issues. But the guy could sure as hell win. And whether or not you like the guy down at Eastern Mississippi Community College, the guy sure can win. And I'm not sure that, they have the similar problems of getting players in from Mississippi. I don't know if they have a whole lot of local talent down there at EMCC. I mean, they call it Last Chance U for a reason, right? But, I think that it is a shame that there isn't some sort of a push to make Kansas players more available to Kansas JUCO spots on a roster, scholarships, partial scholarships. I'm not going to say even necessarily that things needed to remain the way that they were. But, Weston, couldn't there have been a middle ground? Because right now we basically have no Kansas kids on the national champion. Do they have to go all the way? Can't we swing back the pendulum a little bit to the middle? I mean, do you really have to have 98% of your roster out of state in order to compete with the national championship? And my second question, open-ended, I don't have the answer, is this. what does it say about Kansas football that we don't have players that our own JUCOs want? Whose fault is that? Why is that the case? Why are they all, and I know that Texas and California and Florida, they got more people. I get that. They got more people. They're always going to have more people. That's always going to be where college football players come from. The warm weather states dominate now. That pipeline of, those big Nebraska boys that are just, brainwashed that they're going to Lincoln to play for the Huskers, or they're bred in Wisconsin. And Wisconsin's been pretty good. I probably shouldn't put them in the same category as Nebraska, but it's less and less. The players are coming out of the South and out of California, not the South, but out of warm weather states, warm weather locations. Why can't Kansas be more competitive? Is it something the KSHSAA is doing? Is it just a limitation of our population? I don't know what the answer is, but I do know that it is a damn shame that there are not more Kansas kids playing for Hutchinson, playing for Butler, playing. And I know Butler's made a commitment that they're going to try to continue to recruit Kansas kids. They want Kansas kids, and I'm sure that there are other community colleges in Kansas that are doing the same thing. But man, it sure would be nice if we had our elite teams that were giving a place for Kansas high school players to continue their career and maybe pop in and become a Division One signee, and then maybe be able to make it into the NFL or play professional football after that.
Andale. I don't know if I've mentioned that on this show.
and you're a former college player yourself. Where'd you play high school football? Yeah. Oh yeah. I forgot. God, please allow me while I puke while I let you. We love Andale. We don't have anything wrong with Andale. It's all Weston's fault. So you went from the Andale Indians to Friends, right? That's a joke. Southwestern. But you kind of, when you were playing, the rules were totally tightened the other way, where it was mostly Kansas kids. So kind of unwind that for us. And where was your thought process in terms of deciding whether or not to go to JUCO? Obviously, you end up going to the Kansas Collegiate Athletic Conference, playing NAIA football, and maybe now how that will have changed for a high school player
I think
like
maybe
yourself,
I have a good example,
in college,
or I'm a good
enough
test
to get
subject for why
an NCAA scholarship
shouldn't have been in place, because I got recruited by Hutch. And I was, I think, very realistic with myself that I would never have seen the field at Hutch JUCO. I just don't think I just wasn't of that size or speed to play at that level. I just wasn't. So for me, even though I got recruited, knowing that I was being recruited because they had to meet that quota, I was more interested in going somewhere. I want to play. I just don't want to be a part of. I just don't want to be on a roster for 2 years, and then what do I have to show if I have no game tape? And at the time, I know now that this happens, but at the time, I'm thinking, how could I possibly convince even an NAIA school, Southwestern, a Friends, anybody to recruit me if I never stepped on the field at Hutch? And now knowing also at the NAIA level, that actually happens all the time, guys. They may not have that game tape, but it's size, speed. All these coaches talk to each other, so they go and talk to that Hutch JUCO coach and says, "Oh yeah, I know. Look, I mean, he didn't make it on the field for us, but he was great in practice, hustled. He's got the size. He's putting up these numbers in the weight room. Blah blah blah." And that's how you get recruited. But I'm kind of connecting some dots, and I'm kind of wondering too, with the new addition to the transfer portal and the way things are going, I'm wondering if the MIAA is going to somewhat turn into a potential leaping pad for players. And I think that's not to the benefit of the MIAA, of course, right? I mean, I think we'll see how this turns out. But is that what's going to happen? I mean, as this Well, because for whatever reason,
Why the MIAA?
Yep, sure.
Because that's a premier football that at times, I know it's been down, like Pittsburgh State has not been.
I 100% agree, except the difference
Northwest Missouri's been pretty damn good.
MIAA and
so
the NJCAA.
Why the MIAA?
Is the qualifications to get in and what happens with the whole last chance U. A lot of these JUCOs are getting insanely talented players, and it's in spots, right? That's not to say that an MIAA team couldn't go and beat a Hutch or whatever. It's hard to even wrap my brain around that. But that's the thing, is there's just... Right, you can build players. Exactly.
Yeah. You've got a 4-year program. You're recruiting 4-year guys versus, and when Jason Brown talked about this, that he's in contact with Division I guys, and they're saying, hey, we need to send this guy here, we develop him
and that's
for
in
us,
my mind. That's kind of why I see the MIAA almost as
just
potentially, and again,
totally
depending on the transfer portal and how it plays out. We've seen what it's done in basketball. It's gone wild. Football didn't quite have that same yet. We're going to see how things shake out over the next few years with this transfer portal and everything. But with the MIAA, it gives, that Kansas player, a guy like myself, who size-wise, I just wasn't ready to compete. But it would give me time to develop in the weight room with the playing skill, and then maybe you get someone who was smaller, puts on some strength, some weight, shows that they've got talent, and goes, oh, wow, I love it here. Maybe that guy says, I want to try to help Pitt State, I want to try to help Washington, I want to try to help Emporia State win a national championship, and they stay. That's going to happen a lot of times. Guys build those, right, Fort Hays, absolutely. Or, oh, sure.
Or Fort Hays State, too.
Right.
I mean, Fort Hays State, they've come out of nowhere to be,
there's
one
just
of the best teams in the MIAA after being terrible for years. I mean, they've made the tournament the last few seasons.
I have zero shot, and this isn't true, but this is going to be their thought process. I have zero shot at making the NFL from the MIAA. Why don't I try to go spend a year at Kansas State, Iowa State, see if I can't put myself on a radar to get to that next level. And again, this is just me kind of speculating, taking an eye out, especially as, like, circling back to our start of this conversation, with JUCO not giving that requirement that Kansas guys be on the roster, they're not going to want to take the time, and they frankly don't have the time to develop guys with just 2 years or 3 years with a red shirt. But I know, again, there's a lot of players coming out of high school. Kansas, I think overall, and maybe I'm stepping into a realm I shouldn't, but I think Kansas education is good. You got a lot of kids coming out that aren't necessarily saying, I don't want to spend 3 years in a JUCO when I can, move on in my education system, and 2 or whatever would rather just start at a Pitt or an Emporia or somewhere like that. So that's kind of where I'm wondering if this is going. But I think this is a good conversation, but boy, have we steered this from the national championship game. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, right. I do agree, and I do feel bad about it a little bit because I do think that those kids up at Hutchinson have done something that's really, really tremendous, and that there are a lot. I know that's, like I said, a little bit out of our area of purview here down in Wichita sports land, but Hutchinson is real close, and I know there are probably a lot of Blue Dragon fans around who are going to be really proud of their undefeated season. Put an asterisk on it if you want. They're going to They're going to have the trophy, they're going to hang the banner, and they're going to be just as proud as they can possibly be there for the Blue Dragons. So congratulations again, Hutchinson, number 1 team in the country. They beat Snow College 29-27 to win. I guess they're calling it the 2020 NJCAA National Championship. And that brings us to our conclusion, the final segment of the show. It is time to hit the music and time for our Wichita Whiparound. One story, and we try to make it a positive one generally, that you need to know from around the Wichita area.
And I have a couple, so I'll just start with one. Maybe we can bounce back and forth.
Weston, you already did your Whiparound. So what's your Wichita Whiparound?
But the first one I wanted to talk about, and I know we talk about it a lot, and maybe in Wichita there's not as much buzz as I feel like there maybe should be with Sunrise Christian Academy, but Mark Mitchell, a player from Bishop Miege, who's the number 8 ranked player in the recruiting class of 2020, is transferring from Bishop Miege, which is up here in Kansas City, to Sunrise Christian to play for them, averaging 18 and 6 a game. That's, big time. You're talking about number 8 in the nation transferring into to Sunrise Christian. And what I thought was interesting about that dynamic is in-state, right? And I know Kansas City sometimes can feel worlds apart up here, but transferring from 4A Bishop Miege over to Sunrise Christian Academy, big time, 6'8", 205-pound forward, playing for Luke Barnwell down there at Christian, or over there at Sunrise Christian.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic story, and for Sunrise Christian, and yeah, I know that we've maybe touched just a little bit on 4A sports and classifications and private schools and is that fair? And I think basically my point was if you want to beat Bishop Miege, why don't you get better and then worry about it? But yeah, when you hear height, weight, dimensions like that on that guy, like, well, geez, I don't know if there's a lot of 4A schools with that running around on the roster. I am going to go to high school activities as well. And this was after we ended our last show last time, but the state swimming meet was held, and the Bishop Carroll girls swimming and diving team won the state championship 5-1A. It's their second straight championship in a race against a city league rival. A holy war for the swimming championship as the Bishop Carroll girls team beat Cape and Mount Carmel, 282 team points. Cape and Mount Carmel lost by 45 points. Congratulations to Coach Spencer Shellhammer and the Bishop Carroll Golden Eagles girls swimming team for bringing home a state championship
Ricks,
back to Wichita.
Recruit
Weston, you
signed with
got
Wichita
one
State,
more
and I know
story.
people are probably thinking, well, okay, this is a big story. I guess 6'7" wing out of Oak Hill. He was not listed on Wichita State's top 8 at all, which that's
I saw that.
I know that the top 8s and lists and all that gets so ridiculous, but what I think is exciting about is showing what Isaac Brown can do as far as going in and convincing a kid that didn't have Wichita State on the map at all, but 6'7" wing, 3-star recruit. He's a 3-and-D type player. They say he's a great athlete, which I think that 6'7", that big 3-and-D wing, that type of player is so important, I think, for a mid-major, talking about competing when it comes to the tournament, because when you run into those big-time stars and some of the big-time programs that are going to go on to the NBA, you get a guy that's a great athlete that's 6'7", that's known for for defense and 3 points. Like, that's the kind of guy you need to go guard that star player. So that's why I think this Jalen Ricks was an important signing for Wichita State, and don't know that he'll necessarily play right away or anything like that, but big time prospect. I mean, he was being recruited by Arkansas, Oklahoma State, TCU, so big get for Wichita State.
Absolutely. And it just goes back to show once again, all these people who question the Isaac Brown hire and, can he recruit and all this? Like, you think that Greg Marshall was recruiting all these guys on his own? Like, come on. I know Greg Marshall had such a huge personality, and he was the face of the program, and deservedly so. But in all these programs, it doesn't matter if it's at KU with Bill Self, or if it is at Kentucky with John Calipari, or if it's at North Carolina with Roy Williams, or was with Roy Williams, and or a Duke with Mike Krzyzewski, was with Krzyzewski. All of their assistant coaches recruit these guys, period. There's not a single great head coach from Dean Smith to John Wooden who has not had an assistant coach on there that went out and recruited guys, period. So, yeah, I think it's a fantastic signing for Wichita State. Interested to see what he looks like in a Shocker uniform. And that is our Wichita Whiparound for this week. One last piece
where to fit
to
this
take
in,
care of.
it's not really
Weston,
Wichita, but it is Kansas
corrections,
Prep Sports, and I felt like we had to talk about it. Did you hear, and maybe if you guys covered this, please stop me, Kendra Waite, 6A girls track performer, had four gold medals. My God.
Sure.
All in one day too. That, to me, that was the most impressive part. Normally
yes,
that would
we did cover that.
But yeah,
you can mention it bears
my
repeating.
God. Then my other addition is going back to I had predicted Julio Jones to the Chiefs. Unfortunately, that did not happen. Tennessee Titans nabbed Julio Jones, but it does kind of tie in with Wichita a little bit. I don't know if you saw Tyreek Hill was in Wichita over at the Striker Sports.
How's that working out for you?
One of his camps that he puts on for kids, and he was asked about Julio Jones, and this of course was I believe the day before the news broke, and he and both Travis Kelce had talked about, that'd be exciting and intrigued and blah blah blah, but did not happen. I really was starting to think that might come through, and Julio Jones to Tennessee. I do think that makes them a much tougher competitor for Kansas City, though. Yeah,
I'm not sure that we mentioned, thinking back on it now, I'm not sure we mentioned Kendra Wade. Should mention that she's from Gardner, Edgerton, up there in the northeast part of the state. But yeah, absolutely phenomenal state track and field meet for her as she won, basically everything. And that 100-meter dash championship, she flat out ran away from those girls. That was impressive. Looking at the AFC now, I can't remember, Weston. It's been a while since I thought going into a season. I think there are 4 teams right now that I would not at all be shocked if they won the AFC Championship. Because I think that Kansas City is your favorite. But, I mean, look at what they're doing right now in Cleveland. I think Cleveland's a real team. And I think that Tennessee is a real team. Buffalo is a real team. And by the way, I don't think the Ravens are that bad. I think the Ravens are pretty damn close, actually, if Lamar Jackson can get back to his form from a couple of seasons ago rather than last year. He didn't play that bad last year. But you have 5 pretty damn solid teams in the AFC right now that I think all could make a run.
And then to think that potentially Mr. Brady waiting on the other side
one of those 4 teams were playing for the Super Bowl.
But I will add, just in case you guys didn't cover Kendra Wade, just so our listeners know, she won the 100, the pole vault, the long jump, and the shot put. I mean, what a well-rounded. I mean, and I think Taylor Eldridge wrote the article.
Yeah, go for it.
Paper about it, but I mean, suggesting, and I would agree with him, could be the most dominant state and track performance in the history of Kansas athletics. I mean, men or women. Like, that's just incredible. And going on to I believe Iowa State. No, Creighton. Yeah. Sorry, Creighton to play volleyball. So it's going on to track and field.
It's unbelievable what she was able to do. So I mean, she had a Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah. I was trying to think of what she was going to do. I didn't think it was track and field, but yeah, going to be a Blue Jay in volleyball. So going to be watching her career with a little earnest for those of us in Northeast Kansas. So probably up in your neck of the woods. That is our show for this week. Thanks so much for being a part of it. You can really help us out by liking and subscribing on whatever platform you use to listen to us on. Once again, cogsports.com, @CogPod on Twitter. Those would be the best 2 ways to interact with us, or by liking our Facebook page, Keeper of the Games on Facebook. And as always, you can send us a message, share us with a friend. We really appreciate your support of the show. Once again, want to make sure that you say congratulations to Tommy on Twitter or Facebook on the birth of his new son. Tweets from Tommy. Weston Mills, what is your Twitter handle for our beloved audio listeners? And I am at B.E. Cripps, BECRIPPS on Twitter. That is our show for this week. We'll be back next week with another edition of Keeper of the Games. We'll see what's happening. I'm guessing probably going to be pretty baseball-centric. Will anything break for the Kansas City Chiefs? Will Danny Duffy please make an appearance? Will the real Danny Duffy please stand up and pitch for the Royals? Where is he? I'd like to know where he is. We will see if we can do some investigative reporting and report on that next week on the show. We'll see you then for episode 70. This has been Keeper of the Games.